exposed. 7 sinister rules every mechanic in haunted Ohio must follow to survive the cursed shifts the wind screamed outside. A howl echoing through the cracked windows of Sam Jenkins' auto shop in Riverton, Ohio. The town had seen better days, and tonight was no different. Shadows crept like whispers into the corners of the dimly lit garage. As Sam wiped his greasy hands on an old rag, his phone buzzed, sliding across the grease-stained counter. It was an anonymous text that sent a shiver down his spine. Follow the 7 sinister rules or face the night as horror. He laughed it off, attributing it to local folklore and the winter chill. But as he worked late into the quiet night, the atmosphere thickened with unease. Tools clinked ominously, each sound magnified against the surreal silence. The garage that once felt like home now pulsed with a chilling presence, creeping under his skin. He shook it off, just the shadows playing tricks on him. Then he heard it, a whisper, low and snaking through the air. Sam's heart raced. "Just the wind," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. The temperature inside plummeted. He glanced at his breath, fogging before him like a ghost's last breath. Sam fumbled for a wrench, trying to focus, but thoughts of the text gnawed at him. Those rules were just superstition, but Riverton held dark secrets veiled in its dust. He leaned down and spotted an old newspaper clipping wedged between crates. A faded photo of his father, standing outside the long-abandoned asylum. A structure labeled terrifyingly as the Devil's Denver. A shudder ran through him. The rumors of horrific experiments and lost spirits tangled through the town's history like vines wrapping around exposed bones. "Not this again," he muttered, forcing himself to shake off the nagging feeling of despair. But dread thickened the air. He recalled the sheriff's cool indifference, the dismissive smile flashing as Sam voiced his fears. He was alone in this, trapped within chains of his father's legacy. Seeing familiar faces turned into masks of mistrust, seeds of paranoia sowed deep. Then it happened. The garage door shuddered as if it were trying to scream, and before he could react, a blood-curdling scream pierced the night, reverberating off the walls and digging into his brain. Sam jumped back as shadows grew elongated, curling at the edges of his vision. A spike of fear shot through his veins. This was no mere trick of the mind. In his gut, a storm brewed, thrumming with the realization that the rules could hold sinister truth. What if he crossed a line he shouldn't have? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each hair on Sam's arms stood on end as the lights flickered. He couldn't ignore the rules any longer. The weight of Riverton's past was closing in. The frantic beat of his heart raced against a relentless tide of shadows. What was lurking here with him? Business as usual had crumbled into chaos. With the clock ticking down to an hour before dawn, the whispers crescendoed into a chilling laughter that made the hair on the back of his neck ache. "You shouldn't have ignored the rules." A cold voice coiled around him. Panic surged like a tide as the garage doors groaned. Darkness pressed in, and Sam realized he was trapped in more than just a garage. He was ensnared in the entangled web of his family's horrifying legacy. What awaited him in these lurking shadows? Would he find the courage to confront the malignant truth that had haunted him and this town for far too long? The laughter echoed, sending shockwaves of fear racing through Sam's veins. He pressed against the cold metal of the workbench, the chill biting through his skin. The garage felt alive, a predator lurking in the dark, waiting for the right moment to strike. Sam's mind raced, searching for an escape. He turned to the exit. Heavy, metal, unyielding. Some part of him knew he was meant to stay in this nightmare. Another part screamed to run, to flee the shadows threatening to swallow him whole. "Who's there?" he called, his voice trembling. Silence answered, deep and suffocating. The fluorescent lights sputtered, casting erratic shapes, revealing corners lost in darkness. Goosebumps prickled his skin. He felt their gaze, something unseen, but undeniably there. Follow the rules. Sam, the voice was softer now, penetrating like a knife through the tension in the air. It taunted him, a whisper seeping into his psyche, wrapping around his thoughts. You know them well. His heart hammered like a drum, drowning out rationality. He couldn't remember all 7 rules. Maybe he never had. But the legends spoken in hushed tones floated back into his mind. Never work after midnight, never bypass a cursed car, and always lock the doors, especially at dusk. Some that his father had followed, some he'd scoffed at, convinced they were just old wives' tales. A scraping sound echoed from behind him. His skin prickled, the hairs on his neck standing on end. The sound grew louder, more insistent. He felt the walls closing in, darkness sliding like smoke along the ground. There was no room to run, no way to hide. With a surge of adrenaline, he grabbed a crowbar from the workbench. Iron against the unseen terror. The grip felt warm in his palms, a solid anchor against the chaos consuming the air. He turned sharply, gaze darting around the dimly lit room. The shadows shifted, revealing an object at the far end of the garage. It was a car. An old, rusted heap, one he'd pushed aside days ago without a second thought. Its presence chilled him. The rules had warned against it, yet he had let curiosity blind him. This was the cursed vehicle that had claimed lives, twisted by the hands of time and tragedy. A low hum vibrated through the air, pulling Sam closer. The car beckoned him with a wretched allure. Closer, closer. He could hear whispers inside, a tantalizing chant most couldn't he decipher, but he could almost grasp what they were saying. His grip on the crowbar tightened. The laughter returned, this time mixed with a high-pitched shriek echoing in a twisted symphony. Open it. He hesitated, breath hitching in his throat. If he opened it, he broke the rules. If he didn't, would they unleash their wrath? The cold of the handle radiated like ice, and in that moment of indecision, the ground beneath him trembled. The lights flickered violently, throwing shadows into a frantic dance that obscured the world beyond. Sam felt the floor vibrate with a new energy, a pulse that matched the growing terror in his chest. And just like that, the garage door slammed shut behind him. Panic clawed at his throat. He was trapped. His heart raced, a helpless drum echoing the night's impending doom. The whispers crescendoed to a roar, the shadows around him thickening like smoke. What do you choose, Sam? The voice now dripped with malice, echoing against the walls. Face your fate or run from the truth. Time stood still. Every second dragged like an eternity as the whispers wrapped around him like a shroud. Whatever lay within that rusted vehicle demanded a choice and a price. With one final glance back at his father's ghost, Sam breathed deeply, the weight of Riverton's sins pressing heavy on his soul. He stepped forward, finger brushing the handle. What happened next would seal not just his fate, but the fate of everyone in Riverton. Would he dare to open the cursed car, or would he succumb to the darkness waiting for him? The handle turned under his trembling fingers, and for a moment, time suspended. The whispers grew louder, raucous with anticipation, clawing their way into his mind, demanding he pull the door open. With the sound echoing in his heart, he yanked it. The rusted door creaked open, an unsettling groan that sliced through the fevered air. Sam peered inside, heart pounding. What awaited him seemed to squirm in the darkness, shadows writhing as if alive. An icy blast emerged from the vehicle's interior, wrapping around him, and for a fleeting moment, he thought he felt fingers curling around his neck. Inside, he saw nothing but an overwhelming blackness, thick and humid, heavy with the scent of decay. The whispers morphed into agonized wails, a cacophony summoning memories he never wanted to revisit. Familiar faces flashed in his mind, friends lost, whispered memories of screams at night, and all of Riverton's suffering surfacing like dark water. No! Sam shouted, recoiling, but it was too late. The garage shook violently, the walls rattling under an unseen force. Lights flickered like a dying heartbeat, and he clutched the crowbar with desperate fingers, nails digging into the metal. Sam! The voice oozed around him, intoxicating yet suffocating. You broke the rules. That comes with a price. Before he could react, something shot forward from the shadows. His body froze as fear consumed him. The creeping, gnashing teeth. No. Shadows. It was the essence of despair. The leftovers of all those who dared to cross the cursed car. Tendrils reached out towards him, probing, tasting his terror as he stumbled back. Close it. A voice yelled from somewhere deep within him, echoing years of warnings he'd brushed off, words of his father surfacing in pitched clarity. With adrenaline pumping through every vein, Sam slammed the door. The echoes of the screams subsided slightly but didn't vanish. Instead, they circled him, lingering like a choking mist, whispering, taunting, and laughing. The air felt suffocating. The realization struck him. He had a choice, but the game was just beginning. Not only had he opened the door, but he had also unleashed whatever horrors lurked within, not just for himself but for all of Riverton. He turned toward the workbench, mind racing for a plan, something, anything to reverse this unholy act. The rests of old tools lay scattered: screwdrivers, rags soaked in oil, but one object caught his eye. A pocket watch, glinting like a cursed jewel. Dusty and neglected, it whispered promises, maybe the chance to reset, to rewind it all. His heart raced with hope and dread. Could it be that simple? The clock ticked viciously, each second a reminder of the dwindling moments he had left. Shadows flared, claws inching back toward him, feasting on the fear radiating off his quaking frame. Stop! I didn't mean to, he yelled, voice cracking. The laughter intensified, grim, mocking. You can't undo what has been done. The echoes seemed to dance around him, reveling in his despair. The grasping shadows lurked closer now, anticipation thickening the air. With a heated breath, Sam lunged for the watch, the metal cold and threatening in his palms. Would it save him, or would it bind him deeper into this nightmare? A sudden crash rang out. The garage quaked violently again, sending tools tumbling. A figure stepped from the shadows, features distorted by darkness. You made your choice, Sam. Now you will suffer its consequences. The revelation hit like a thunderclap, swirling dread washing over him. Sam knew escaping his fate now meant contending with something far worse than he could ever imagine. What awaited him outside? Would this figure claim him, and what would become of Riverton itself as the cursed cycle began anew? He clutched the pocket watch, heart pounding. His hands trembled with uncertainty. Could he undo what he had unleashed? The air trembled with dark possibilities as the figure edged closer, grinning in anticipation. What new horrors lay in wait as he faced the embodiment of Riverton's darkest sins? The figure advanced, its twisted grin growing wider as it drank in Sam's fear. Shadows flickered behind it, mutating into a whirlpool of cursed souls, each clawing at the margins of its form, yearning for release. Sam's grip on the pocket watch was a fleeting glimmer of hope amidst the suffocating dread. Do you know the price for breaking the rules? The entity's voice was a serrated whisper, slicing through Sam's thoughts like a jagged blade. You think your little trinket will save you? Look around. Glimmers of their faces emerged, desperate and lost, a haunting reminder of lives consumed by darkness. Sam's breath hitched. It wasn't just him. It was them too, every lost soul spiraling into the abyss of forgotten memories. With each beat, regret gnawed at him, an ever-tightening noose around his neck. Get back, he barked, his voice barely masking the quaver. The garage felt alive, pulsing in tandem with his anguish. He wanted to run, but the shadows had woven themselves into a cocoon of despair, binding him in place. Why fight it? The figure taunted, its fingers stretching outward, beckoning Sam to join the others in torment. Embrace your fate, Sam. Join the feast. The shadows flickered, clawed hands reaching out as if pleading for his acceptance. In that moment, time seemed to fold. Sam's mind raced with fragmented thoughts. He couldn't let this happen, not just to himself but to Riverton. He remembered his father's warning words meant as caution but felt like chains now. You play with darkness, it plays back, his father used to say. With every ounce of will, Sam fought back the tide of dread creeping into his heart. The pocket watch, cold and unyielding, pressed against his palm, a reminder that maybe, just maybe, it still held a key. "Let them go," he shouted, desperation lacing his voice. The entity laughed, resonating within the concrete walls, echoing off the cars veiled in shadows. "They belong to me now. They chose this. I didn't choose anything." Sam countered, his courage flickering. The shadows coiled closer, teasing him with the stench of despair, but even in the oppressive dark, he could see a glimmer of light, a frail thread of hope anchored within the watch. Summoning nerves he didn't know he possessed, Sam shoved the watch into the heart of the entity's reach, the cold surface igniting upon contact. "If it's a game, then let us change the rules." The air crackled as the shadows recoiled, the entity's grin faltering, its gaze shifting to the watch. A moment of tension suffocated the garage. Sam's heart raced as he held his breath. "Fool!" it screamed, rage spilling from every corner of the room. "You'll regret this." The shadows writhed violently, crashing like waves against unseen barriers. Sam's veins throbbed with adrenaline. The watch pulsed against his palm, almost a living entity in its own right. He felt the echoes of memories it held, teetering on the edge of existence. Could he rewrite the rules? Suddenly, a blinding flash enveloped the garage. Ball lightning flickered around, illuminating the twisted figure momentarily. Sam squinted, half blinded, but his sense of direction sharpened. Shadows twisted and warped, losing their grip, while the echoes of lost souls became dissonant. "Sam!" The voice of his father filled the air, resolute and commanding. "Choose wisely." The light began to fade. The entity screeched, thrashing against the unyielding force now flowing from the pocket watch. Sam fought through the chaos, the moment stretched like a taut string ready to snap. "Not today," he screamed, heart racing, eyes blazing with determination. Every ounce of energy coalesced around him, swelling with revival yet tinged with desperation. As shadows surged forward, longing for his essence, he pressed the watch against the darkness. And then everything went black silence. Sam floated in a void, wondering if he had truly unleashed a deeper darkness, or if he had banished the shadows completely. A heavy stillness hung in the air, thick like fog on a winter night, wrapping around him, suffocating yet oddly comforting. But in that haunting calm he heard a faint tick-tick-tick. Where was he now? Had he won or lost? And what darkness still lingered in Riverton, waiting to pounce? As uncertainty wrapped around him like a shroud, one chilling question pierced through the void. Had he truly escaped, or had he opened a door he could never close? The void seemed endless, an inky blackness that swallowed thoughts and memories. Sam could sense it all around him, a cold breath against the back of his neck, a reminder of the presence he had faced. The tick-tock of the pocket watch grew louder, slicing through the stillness, a grim heartbeat in a realm that offered none. He felt weightless, every part of him suspended in an unsettling tranquility that only amplified the terror in his chest. With each tick, doubt crept in. Had he truly made a choice, or had he plunged deeper into the abyss? What rules had he just rewritten, and at what cost? Then the darkness shifted. Shapes began to coalesce, swirling, congealing into ghastly forms. The tormented faces he had seen earlier now stared back at him from the void, twisted in anguish, mouths open in silent screams. Sam recoiled, instinctively wanting to shield himself from their despair. "Help us help," they whispered, their voices an echo of unity, yet fractured and dissonant, each syllable laced with desperation. "No, no," he shouted, trying to drown their pleas. They weren't real, were they? Yet their presence weighed upon him like lead, pressing down into him, forcing him to confront the truth he so desperately wanted to deny. They were lost souls, just like those he had seen in the garage. How many had he abandoned? How many had fallen to that same entity? The watch within his hand pulsed again, a surge of energy that crackled like static across his skin. Sam could hear his father's voice again, deep and resonant, offering clarity amid the chaos. "You can't save them all, Sam, but you can save yourself." He squeezed the watch tighter, its cold surface grounding him. "I want to leave you," he screamed into the darkness, suddenly aware of the fear flickering in his own heart. Did he dare confront the shadows? Did he pursue a glimmer of light or succumb to the despair of the lost? The tick-tock quickened, transforming into a fierce rhythm that matched the pounding in his chest. With clenched teeth, he summoned a resolve he thought he had lost. "You want to take me?" In response, the figures writhed, their faces melting into one another, shifting shapes of agony. Shadows clawed at him, reaching out with spectral hands, trying to pull him into their fold. "Join us," they hissed, their voices now a morbid chant. "Escape this torment, be one with the darkness and oh." The word burst from Sam, fueled by rage and fear. He raised the watch, holding it out like a shield. Light erupted from it, breaking through the shroud of darkness, cutting a golden path through the shadows. And then it happened, a jolt, a searing sensation that shot through him like lightning. Vivid flashes of memories pierced through the darkness. Laughter with friends, midnight drives with his father, softness of love lost. All the warmth he fought to remember swirled around him in radiant shards. The shadows lost their grip, screaming in agony as light triumphed, if only for a moment. Faces blurred again, becoming more haunting with every flick of light cutting through their desperation. "Foolish child, you'll never escape. You will be one of us," the entity's voice echoed, filling the void with malevolence. "Perhaps, but not today," Sam shouted, thrusting the watch forward as the light grew brighter, blazing towards the darkness. Then suddenly, everything shattered. He found himself lying on cold concrete, the edges sharp against his skin, reality crashing back. The garage. His breath was harsh, panic flooding back in as he gasped for clarity in the stark surroundings. But the garage was different now. The shadows still lingered, but they were dulled, like distant memories. The faces? Gone. Just a faint memory of terror that lurked behind him. What did I break? The question trembled in his mind. He stood up, looking around. The remnants of lost souls blocked his thoughts. But one thing was certain: Riverton was still at stake, and somehow, he felt he had only just awakened the deeper horror. Footsteps echoed behind him, quick and light, but they weren't his own. Someone was there, watching. Sam, a voice said softly, sending icy tendrils down his spine. Who was it? What waited for him now? The shadows shifted just beyond the flickering lights. Whispers slithered into his ears, beckoning him. Turning around slowly, dread began to coil in the pit of his stomach. "Are you ready to break another rule?" the figure asked, stepping out of the dark as hope fled from Sam's heart once more. The figure stepped closer, its outline barely illuminated by the dying lights. Fear stabbed through Sam. The face remained obscured, but the voice was eerily familiar yet twisted, like an old tape played at the wrong speed. "You thought you could escape?" taunted, each word dripping with malice. "Who are you?" Sam's voice was shaky, echoing his fear. He felt the urge to back away, but his feet wouldn't respond, as if the concrete held him in place. He peered into the shadows behind this phantom, hoping to catch a glimpse of the familiar face he yearned to see. Nothing but dark void surrounded him. The figure chuckled, a sound that reverberated against the garage walls. "Maybe a better question is, what have you awakened?" Sam's breath quickened. "I didn't mean to what?" It interrupted, anger flaring in its tone. "Reopen wounds? Stir the anger of those who wander between? This world isn't yours to mend. Boy, you've only set a stage for chaos." A cold sweat trickled down his spine. He thought he had fought for light. Now, it seemed he had only fanned the flames of a greater darkness. "What do you want?" he pleaded, straining to hold the pocket watch tight, as if its presence could shield him from whatever horror was unfolding. "Oh, it's simple," the figure said, stepping further into the flickering light. Sam's heart raced as features slowly emerged. A twisted amalgamation of faces, parts of strangers he had seen in town, others he couldn't recognize. "You broke the rules, and now you must face the consequences. Each soul you brushed past in your ignorance, they're rising. They're angry. Angry? Sam echoed, the weight of realization settling on his chest like a lead blanket. I can fix this. I can fix this. It mocked. There's no fixing broken lives, only breaking them further. The game begins anew. 7 rules dictate your survival, and they'll reveal themselves only when the time is right. Sam felt a wall of heat wash over him, his instincts screaming at him to flee. What are you talking about? The figure smiled, a hollow grin that sent shards of dread through him. You'll soon find out. But beware, each decision you make might cost you dearly. Not just your life but the lives of those you love. With a swift motion, the figure transformed, swirling into a mass of shadows that flickered chaotically, pulling Sam's gaze into the depths. Wait, he lunged forward. Nothing but darkness met him as he fell into the void yet again, the air rushing around him until it felt like he was drowning. The pocket watch spun wildly in his grip, a clockwork heart pounding faster and faster, its face glowing brighter against the murky black. Then, he jolted awake again, this time surrounded by the remnants of the garage, debris scattered like lost souls. The lights blinked ominously as whispers filled the air, an echo of haunting laughter that wasn't his own. Panic clawed at him as he scrambled to his feet, heart racing. He could feel eyes on him, hungry and expectant. He glanced around, instinctually searching for an escape, only to find crimson stains on the floor, the remnants of mishaps long buried. The rules, he muttered, the weight of dread settling in. What rules? The air grew colder, suffocating him, straining against his breaths. Shadows danced, flickering against the wall, forming shapes that suggested movement, whispers that hinted at more than he could comprehend. Then the garage door creaked open, a glimmer of moonlight spilling in, illuminating an old flyer taped to the wall. The 7 Sinister Rules of Riverton's Haunted Mechanic. The ink dripped as if alive, the last words bleeding out. Break them, and break the darkness, but at what cost? A figure loomed near the threshold, silhouetted by the glow, watching and waiting. Sam felt the ice in his veins. Who knew what awaited him under the rules? Are you ready to play again? The figure's voice echoed chillingly through the open door. And just like that, he realized in this game, the darkness wasn't the only thing to fear. The shadows in the garage twisted unnaturally as Sam's heart slammed against his ribs, the sound echoing in his ears. He took a shaky step back, glancing around for anything that could pave an escape. The looming figure near the door remained still, representing a gateway to either salvation or damnation. Play again? Sam whispered, disbelief crashing over him like icy water. Was this really happening? What do you want from me? The figure, still shrouded in darkness, chuckled softly. To understand, you must first confront. The first rule: every action has a consequence. Remember that. The words hung in the air, heavy and foreboding. Breaths quickened. He felt suffocated under the weight of their meaning. The pocket watch, the symbol of a world long gone, burned in his palm, reminding him of past choices that had led him here. He turned his eyes to the flyer still glued to the wall. The word haunted pulsed eerily with each heartbeat. What the hell was happening in Riverton? A rustle came from behind him, dragging him back to the present. He faced the darkened corners of the garage, aware that whatever dwelled in the shadows had not yet revealed itself. Show yourself, he cried out, voice trembling, desperate. The laughter echoed again, rich with malice. You seek them? They hide, but they're always watching. The figure moved slightly, casting a flicker of light on its veiled features. Sam strained to see, but fear anchored him to the floor. Show your face, he demanded, but his voice sounded weak even to his own ears. The figure stepped forward, revealing a glimpse of its visage, something familiar. Eyes that once brought him comfort now twisted into a horrific mask of rage and sorrow. No, couldn't he be? Sam, it hissed, voice hollow and warped, layering memories he wished to forget. You left us, but now we're here for you. His stomach twisted. Memories unfurled like moths trapped in a cry, flitting around hopelessly. Friends lost. Lives extinguished. A chill wound its way around him, thoughts racing as he backed against the wall. "What do you mean?" he choked out, panic clawing at his throat. You're not real." "Oh, but we are," a chorus rang out, whispers coalescing from the corners, forming grotesque shapes drawn from the recesses of his mind. Silhouettes that were once familiar now stretched with contorted grins, a macabre play crafted from his own regrets. "You summoned us. The rules are clear. Every wrong choice draws us closer until you are nothing but us. And we are you." As the shadows thickened, pushing against him, Sam's breath hitched in his throat. He could almost feel the weight of souls pressing down, suffocating him with bitterness and longing. How could he have set this in motion? He needed answers. The flyer, barely visible in the tumult of shadows, held their secrets. "What are the rules?" he shouted helplessly. "Tell me." "Foolish boy," the figure sneered. "You'll learn the hard way. You must follow each obscure dictate, embrace the darkness they entail, or face the consequences." The shadows twisted and writhed as if mocking him. The ground trembled, filling with a thrumming pulse that resembled a heartbeat. If he had to survive this, he needed to confront not just the rules but also his own demons. Sam's resolve surged. This was his chance. "I will face anyone or anything. I want to be your puppet." Brave words. The figure's grin widened, a flash of sharp teeth gleaming in the dim light. "Let us see how brave you are when the first rule is revealed." Before he could respond, a voice, softer yet dripping with malice, sang from the depths of the darkness, echoing through the chaos. "Rule 1. The price of knowledge is blood. Choose wisely who you trust." A knot formed in his stomach, a dread that wrapped tighter and tighter as he processed the glare seeping from every corner. Fear gripped him, but with it burned a flicker of determination. He had to understand why. He had to know what haunted Riverton and how to navigate this deadly game of shadows, with the figure watching, 1,000 eyes in the dark. Sam dared to embrace the uncertainty. "I'm ready, make me play." But as the atmosphere thickened with danger, a chilling question echoed deep within him. How much blood would it take before he could end the cycle of terror? And as the shadows loomed ever closer, he realized this was only the beginning. What other horrors awaited him within the confines of the rules? The air thickened as Sam felt the shadows close in around him, clinging like ice to his skin. The laughter morphed into a cacophony of voices, muffled, desperate, overlapping. Each word dripped with malice, doing little to fortify his resolve. The chilling sensation of being watched was palpable, every pair of soulless eyes boring into him from the dark corners of the garage. "Blood, you say? For knowledge?" he murmured, fear and anger fighting for dominance. The figure nodding in the shadows seemed to fill with whatever dread he bestowed upon it. "How much blood? Mine? Or someone else's?" The figure leaned closer, now illuminated by a flickering overhead light, revealing features he could barely process. A distorted face, yet there were traces of familiarity etched within. The once comforting eyes now glowed with a furious hunger. "In this game there are no clean choices, Sam. Decision bleeds into decision. What does that even mean?" he shouted, a desperate edge creeping into his voice as he pushed against the wall, trying to ease the pressing weight around him. He felt trapped, the air tightening, constricting like a noose. Choose wisely, or suffer the consequences. A motley of images surged through his mind, friends, laughter, moments of pure joy, tainted now by remorse. Each face a fragment of the past, now distorted into shades of regret. What had he done that night? That reckless decision that set everything in motion. "Your first challenge awaits, Sam," the voice cooed, almost sing-song. "It will test the very core of your humanity." Before he could react, the ground rumbled beneath him, and the overhead light flickered out, plunging him into darkness. Sam stumbled, heart racing, pulse echoing in his ears like a drum. "Get a grip," he yelled to himself, hands trembling. He focused, trying to listen, to tune out the chilling whispers dancing around him. Then, from the abyss, another voice emerged, deeper, thicker with grief. "You left us who?" Sam clutched the pocket watch, the cold metal grounding him. "What do you want from me?" Suddenly, the darkness parted, and the outline of a new figure began to emerge. A woman, a twisted version of someone once beloved. "You think you can escape your choices? You can't run from the blood on your hands." "No." The denial erupted from Sam, raw and visceral. "I didn't mean to, it was an accident." But the words tasted stale, echoing emptiness. "Accidents are failures of choice," she hissed, stepping closer. "Now the choice is yours. One blood sacrifice and you may find the knowledge to escape. One life for your freedom." A jolt of certainty shot through him. He would not sacrifice anyone. His fists clenched. "I won. Play your game. But it's too late, Sam." The chorus chimed back, laughter swirling around him. "You've already begun. Now face the darkness you've created." In the depths of shadowy corners, he felt movement creep up on him. It was tangible, a pulsing dread that blasted through him like a freight train. He shut his eyes, trying to block it out, but the reality was undeniable. They were here for him. Against every instinct screaming for him to run, Sam stood his ground. "Fine. I'll face whatever this is. But I won't trust you. Not now, not ever. Resistance makes you weak." They whispered in unison. "Rule 2 will bring you clarity and fear." A sudden rush of wind sent chills down his spine, sweeping through the garage like a haunting sigh. Sam's heart hammered like war drums as he braced himself for what came next. What was this Rule 2? He dared not think it, yet a dark curiosity twisted within him. "Let the game continue" echoed through the garage, wrapping him in a cocoon of terrifying anticipation. Fear gripped his heart tighter, and he realized with horror that whatever lay ahead would reach deeper than a mere questioning of trust. It would tear through the very fabric of his reality, confronting him with the inescapable darkness residing in his soul. What other ghastly trials lay in wait, and how much further would he have to descend into this living nightmare? A haunting stillness cloaked the garage as Sam braced himself. The shadows flickered like restless spirits, always just out of reach, yet their presence was unmistakable. Each breath felt heavier, weighed down by an unseen force that threatened to crush him. He felt the desperation of his choices clawing at the edges of his mind. "Rule 2, clarity and fear," he whispered, confusion mingling with dread. What could that possibly mean? A metallic clang echoed, slicing through the silence like a knife. Sam spun, eyes darting to where the sound had come from. The rusted tools on the wall, remnants of forgotten labor, appeared to rattle of their own accord. The flickering light returned, bathing the garage in a sickly glow, revealing a pattern of dust and despair. "Face your truths," echoed the voice again, a chilling undertone threading through the words. He could feel it worming into his thoughts, slithering to the core of his uncertainty. A faint sound, a soft whimper, caught his attention. Sam's heart lurched as he turned, and there it was, a small figure huddled in the corner, concealed within the shadows. It trembled, curls of dark hair framing a face that sent a wave of recognition crashing over him. "Danny?" The name slipped from his lips, a breathless hope drenched in panic. He hadn't seen his little brother in years, had told himself the boy was safe, far from the chaos he had brought into their lives. The figure slowly raised its head. Hollow eyes stared back at him, filled with sadness and an alien fear. "You left me. You forgot me. No, no, no." Sam felt the room spin. This couldn't be real. It had to be another cruel trick. "Danny, I didn't. I thought you were thought." "What?" The child's voice cracked, laced with bitter betrayal. "You thought you could run? That it would all just disappear?" The shadows shifted, swirling around Danny like dark currents. Sam's mind raced, grappling with the wall of guilt crashing down on him. He could almost feel its weight on his shoulders, wrapping around him like shackles. "We'll play a game, just the two of us," Danny said, his small voice deceptively sweet. "Just like the old days, remember?" "No," Sam yelled, but it echoed hollowly in the dark void. A burst of laughter erupted from the shadows surrounding him, each cackle slicing through him with the precision of a blade. "A sacrifice for knowledge take his place." The chorus rang out, twisted and ghoulish. Sam squeezed his eyes shut, fighting back tears. This isn't real. You can't do this. It was like screaming into a windstorm where no one could hear him. When you run from your past, it will always catch up, whispered the woman's voice, the one who had taunted him earlier. It filled the air with a rancid sweetness, like decay wrapped in silk. Choose to save him or to seal yourself in darkness. One must pay the price. Fear knotted tight in Sam's stomach, the line between reality and nightmare blurring. He had to make a choice. But how? The gravity of his decisions weighed heavily, a phantom pulling him deeper into despair. Danny, he whispered, fear inching into the very marrow of his bones. Would he strand his brother to save himself? Or would he step into the abyss and claim the darkness for them both? The shadows shimmered, waiting, hungry. Choose wisely or lose everything echoed in his mind. A racking sob escaped him as he stood on the cusp of his fate, the haunting sound of laughter echoing all around, mocking him, pulling him to decisions that felt impossibly real. With his brother's gaze locked on him, an unthinkable choice loomed. How far would he go to escape this horror? What would it take to end the game? And as he felt the walls close in, darkness surged. Would he surrender everything for a chance at salvation? What awaited him on the other side of this terrifying decision? The shadows pulsed around Sam, a living entity hungry for despair. Cold sweat coated his palms. His heart drummed a frantic beat, thudding louder than the twisted laughter echoing off the garage walls. You can't do this, he shouted, but the words felt empty, lost in the clamor of his swirling fears. Danny's hollow eyes, filled with sorrow yet somehow accusing, pierced through Sam like shards of glass. Choose save him or seal yourself in darkness. The voice of despair echoed. It was a choice none should ever have to make. Sam's chest tightened painfully, constricting under the weight of desperation. How can I choose? He cried, voice trembling. What right did he have to drag his brother into his own murky past? Danny seemed to shrink even further into the shadows, tiny and fragile, his voice barely above a whisper. Please don't leave me again. A shiver danced down Sam's spine. Memories flooded back. The playful laughter, the night of chaos, the guilt that had haunted him for years. Each recollection was a dagger, twisting deeper, and in that pain came clarity. I can't go through that again, he murmured. But I can't let you suffer either. And yet the truth weighed heavily. He had chosen to run once before. In his quest to escape, he had left behind the very people he loved. Now that choice stood before him again, and the specter of his past demanded payment. The voices grew more demanding, a cacophony of lost souls, calling for justice. Please just tell me what to do. Sam's voice cracked, desperation clawing at his throat. The shadows tightened around him, their darkness thickening as if feeding off his turmoil. Your brother's soul or your own freedom, they taunted. Felt impossibly cruel yet. Was there a way to save them both? Sam's mind raced, an adrenaline-filled storm of thoughts, and the flickering watch in his grasp pulsed, urging him to choose. Rule 2, he remembered, echoing the darkness's claim. What is the cost of knowledge? Knowledge, what fresh horror awaited him? As the shadows reached teasingly, Sam's thoughts landed on his father's words. Every action has a consequence. This was true. But what about sacrifice? In a surge of impulsive courage, he shouted, maybe I can save us both. With fierce conviction, he thrust the pocket watch toward the figure, its light casting back the shadows momentarily. You're not the master of this game. The darkness convulsed, seeking to recoil from the light emanating from the watch. A cry erupted from the sanctum of shadows, a melding of angry voices swirling in agony. Sam felt a surge of inexplicable power coursing through him, drawing from an untouched well within. I am not afraid, he asserted, pushing against the tide, fat with fear. The instant stretched, time holding its breath, as shadows shrank, writhed, morphing back. You fool! The disembodied voices screeched, but Sam felt the desperation shift. You can't fight what has already begun. But I can redirect it, he yelled, conviction fueling his resolve. With a burning heart, he focused entirely on Danny. I choose to protect my brother. Let us both live. The darkness convulsed once more. The taunting laughter now replaced with howls of fury. In that pivotal moment, light engulfed them both, illuminating the garage like an open dawn. This ends here. You will not take him from me. As the light grew more intense, it crystallized into shapes, images of laughter, warmth, and love, cascading through the shadows, breaking apart their grasp. The memories his cherished brotherhood swelled in that moment, powerful enough to counteract the suffocating darkness. The figure of Danny began to glow, pulling away from the grip of shadows wrapping around him. Sam, he called, voice stronger now, filled with hope. Don't let go. The shadows hissed, shrieking in outrage, but Sam pushed through. We're free, he shouted, the pocket watch gleaming. Together, he and Danny wove their memories like a tapestry, binding light to darkness, illuminating their world while encasing the shadows further back into the recesses where they belonged. In one final explosion, darkness receded, a blinding light erupting forth. The garage trembled, shadows torn asunder, and a cleansing rush flooded in. Sam felt a weight lift as he stumbled back, breathless yet euphoric. He grasped Danny by the shoulders, pulling him close, their hearts beating in sync, alive together. Sam. Danny laughed, a sound that lifted the heaviness in the air. We did it. The giggle rang clear, familiar and sweet against the remnants of silence. Realizing the weight of what they had achieved, Sam turned to the remnants of the shadows, feeling the space reconfigure under a new breath of air. This wasn't just a victory. It was a reclamation. The cycle had ended, they had triumphed together. Goodbye, Riverton's darkness, he whispered, the shadows melting back into the void, banished at last. His brother beamed, the twinkle in his eyes signaling that hope and light remained. As the ruins of their past began to fade into history as dawn broke outside, illuminating the now tranquil garage, Sam held the pocket watch tightly. He stilled his heart, knowing that with remembrance came responsibility. Memories would never be forgotten, but they now held a new promise of warmth, a promise that hope could defy despair. Let us rebuild, he said with determination, Danny nodding beside him as they faced the light streaming through the garage door. They were free of the shackles of darkness, together stepping into a new dawn. Sam felt a weight lifting, the painstaking scars now transforming into chapters he would treasure, and Riverton glimmered with a fresh start. But behind him, the shadows stirred, lingering in the corners, waiting. He turned, ready to confront whatever may come with new strength, a guardian of lessons learned, a keeper of the light. Riverton would remember. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on exclusive stories like this. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and support the channel. Flood the comments section with your reactions, theories, and thoughts about this thrilling conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. Let's keep the suspense alive together.